Hello everyone, welcome to a little bit of a different video today. I want to go through what I think are the best possible settings you can get out of Monster Hunter Wilds through the benchmark. Now, this benchmark is the closest representation we can get to the full game, so let's go ahead and look at the settings. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I see people complain about the game being washed out all the time, so let's fix that first of all. Now, obviously you can up the brightness and lower the brightness. We would just want to keep it default for now. This setting's important. If you lower that just to where it's barely visible, so kind of like there, you're going to get way nicer colors in your game. 100%. Really recommend doing that. Please do not forget that setting, because that's why the game might look grayed out and washed out. The next setting you're going to enable, if you can, is DLSS, and enable it to whatever kind of upscaling mode you think your PC's suitable on. I mean, I would personally go quality on me, or balance. Quality or balance is fine. Lower end PCs below 4070, and maybe going down to the, if you're on like a 2070, you're probably going to want to go performance, anything like that. But for a decently spec'd PC, you can run quality. Now, don't forget to enable frame generation if you can. If you have a 40 series card, you'll be able to have DLSS and frame generation on. Frame generation is basically just free frame rate. It's fake frames, but it's free frame rate, and I would not turn that down. If you do not have a 40 series card, you may be able to use AMD, and then you can also enable frame generation through that. So I'd highly recommend checking that out if you can. Now, the next thing I would look at is ray tracing. Now, honestly, I don't notice a huge difference with it off or on, so I like to have it on about medium. You can keep it off if you're noticing a big difference if your VRAM's a little lower, but I like to have it around medium. Texture quality, that's completely up to you. I like to go for probably high is okay. You can go for the highest res if you have a beefer of a PC, which, you know, I could probably handle that, but most people are going to go from high or medium. You're not going to notice a huge difference between high and medium. It's when you reach low that you're going to really start to notice a big difference. Now, the texture filtering, you just don't need to go to the highest. You can, but honestly, 8 times is more than fine. You're not going to notice the difference. Now, mesh quality, I like to have on highest, personally. It just looks that bit better. And if you have enough VRAM, I just recommend it. It will make a difference. There is definitely form quality and difference in the mesh. So really recommend that. Fur quality, honestly, you're not losing out on a lot if you go low, but I do like my high fur. It doesn't make a massive impact, so personally I would recommend that. With the sky quality, again, if it doesn't matter too much to you, you can lower that. It does do a bit on the GPU, so I'd recommend medium for the average person, maybe low if you want to get those extra frames. Grass and tree quality I like to have on high, but again, medium is not that different from high, so if you want to save yourself a bit of VRAM and GPU memory, yeah, I would recommend maybe doing that as well. Grass and tree sway, I turn that on. It doesn't make a huge difference on your GPU. Wind simulation, again, doesn't make a huge difference. Surface quality, again, that's up to you. If you want to lower that, it doesn't make a huge difference, but it does make quite a visual difference on the ground, so I do recommend having it high if you can handle it. Snow water effects quality, sorry, sand and snow, not water effects, that's the next one. Sand and snow, that's completely your call. I like to have it on the highest because it does make that pop, but again, the average person should probably go for medium, as it may drop your frames a little bit. Render distance, I go all the way to highest personally. If you can handle it with your CPU, because it is CPU, it's not GPU focused. If you can handle it, please go for the highest, because it does make a huge difference. Render distance, I've noticed in this game, is very important, for me anyway, because you have big open environments. Auto effects, I enable them. Again, you can turn them off if they're causing anything, but I don't think they're going to make a big difference. Again, shadow quality, I think here is where you're going to have a big difference. You can probably put them on medium or low. Medium will give you those sharper shadows. If you can afford medium, I recommend it. If you can't, don't. You know, lower it right down, because you can see how much VRAM that really takes. But the difference between medium and low is not much. Even the difference between medium high is when you go to highest, right? So I recommend either medium or high. I like high. Distance, shadow quality. Again, you could probably turn that down if you want to. You could probably turn that off. I like to have it on. it does use quite a bit of GPU, so I do recommend, if you are, again, struggling, turn it down a little bit. Shadow distance, I personally like on far. Again, that's going to depend on your PC. I think the average person could probably handle far, but that's completely on your call. Ambient light quality, that's probably going to be the heaviest on your VRAM. You can see there's quite a big jump there. So if you need to lower that down, it's not going to make a huge difference to the average player. So low is probably going to be fine for most people, especially on the average specs. I recommend going for medium or low. Do not go for high like me. Contact shadows, honestly, turn them on. It doesn't make a huge difference and it looks a lot better. Same with ambient occlusion, honestly. In fact, you could probably even handle high if you have anything more than 6 GB of VRAM. I don't recommend going any lower than that. With bloom, that's a personal preference. In all honesty, it doesn't make a huge difference. Motion blur, again, personal preference. I like to have it off. Same with the vignette effect. I just think it's ugly. Depth of field, again, that's completely up to you. I like it off. I think it's ugly. Subsurface scattering, you're not going to notice it if you want to turn it off, if I'm being honest. Volumetric fog. Honestly, you're not going to notice the difference either if you want to lower that, so I do recommend lowering that. Variable rate shading is important. I recommend putting it on balanced if you can afford it. If you can afford it off, have it off. But performance does look a little grainy, so you're not going to get the best graphics. Honestly, out of all the settings I've given you in this video, genuinely the brightness settings are the most important, and you're going to see why in a minute. We're going to run the benchmark and just take a look at this. So what you should hopefully notice is, look how much more the color pops. Look how beautiful that color is compared to what we're used to seeing in most gameplay footage. You know, it looks really, really vibrant, and this is in the dry sandstorm moment. So when we get into the plenty, I will skip forward and you can take a look. Okay, so as you're going to see in just a second here, I mean, already the colors don't look too bad and we're in the inclemency period. And as you can see, when we get into the plenty in a minute, you're going to really see those colors pop. Now you can see the quality is looking pretty damn good, and we're still on a realistic just over 60 FPS, but with frame generation, we're getting a lot more. And that's on my specs. So again, if you go for the actual settings I recommended throughout it, hopefully with a lower spec PC, you should be able to run a little bit smoother than what I'm running. I could even potentially give you an example, but it wouldn't be a true example through my set of specs. So I'm trying to give you an example of what you would see on the settings I recommended. Now that far render distance has helped a lot. I still think there's a weird thing in this game with the grass popping in, but look at the colors. Now I've adjusted that setting with the brightness. It just looks so much sharper and beautiful, and yeah, I really, really, really think you need to keep an eye on this because it makes such a difference. Now, you know, 110, 120 FPS, not crazy high, but that is the lowest it probably will dip, is down to about 110 on the specs. So if you are running these specs, you're not going to have a problem here. Again, with lower spec PCs, just lower down those texture settings, lower down the mesh settings, and it will make a huge difference. Also, the ambient light, definitely mess with some of that stuff, and if you lower those down with shadows as well, you're going to see a huge improvement on your frames. Shadows, textures, that kind of stuff, and make sure you mess with those brightness settings and lower it quite a significant amount, because dude, I think it looks so much better. You're not seeing those washed out colors anymore. You'll see when we get to Chattercabra, it is clean color wise. I want to give a little shout out to Blunty for giving the advice on the brightness. I saw his video the other day, and yeah, it made a huge difference on the quality of the colors and textures. And there you go. Look at that. And I don't even think I have ray tracing on there. Maybe I do. It looks beautiful, dude. The colors just look right. Maybe mildly too dark, but they pop. And I think that's what we're looking for. So yeah, I think that's all you need to see. I hope this helped. Maybe these settings will be okay in the beta. They're probably not going to be as good. I recommend going a setting lower for each of them in the beta, as the beta is not optimized as well. So we'll see in the full game. But if this video was helpful to you, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, all that good stuff. And if you're seeing this after the game is released, I really hope you're enjoying the game. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good evening, have a good morning, and have a good night. And I'll see you later. in a bit.